Tell us about, show the picture, the next slide, of the dome. There's the Dome of the Rock and the blood moon there. Mark, this is where it all started. Tell us about this picture and what it did to you.
Sure. This was in March of 2008. This was a famous picture all over the internet, and I was looking at that, and these verses of the moon turning to, blood and the sun turning to sackcloth. It just reminded me of what the Lord said would happen in the last days. And so I went to NASA's website. NASA, the government, has a website, and because when God placed the sun and the moon and the stars in the heavens, it was all based on science and math, NASA has on their website all of the eclipses for the last 2,000 or 3,000 years, and it also has all the eclipses coming for the next 2,000 to 3,000 years. You can, even 2,000 years from now, you can go to their website and find out what day there'll be a total lunar eclipse, what part of the country, everything. It's all based on math. So I went to the government's website and I looked in the next decade. It was from 2008 to 2018 is when I looked. And I noticed in the year 2014 and in the year 2015, there were 4 total blood moons in a row, back to back, with no partial lunar eclipses in between. And the website said that the government calls this a tetrad, when you have 4 blood moons back to back with no partial lunar eclipses in the middle. And so my first thought was, well, how often does this happen? What's the math? What's the probability of having this? Well, when I had looked, there weren't any at all in the 1800s. There were none in the 1700s. There were none in the 1600s. And last century, there happened to be 2. But there's 2 things. First off, how often are there 4 blood moons in a row? Then the other question is, how often are there 4 blood moons that fall on the set times, on the feast days? Well, in the 1500s, there was all of a sudden 7 tetrads, but none of them fell on the feast days. So I could see tetrads were rare, and they were, would be even rarer if they fell on the feast days. Well, so when I went to 2014 and 2015, I looked at this, I just saw the normal Gregorian calendar dates, and I thought, I didn't see anything. And then all of a sudden it hit me like a bolt of lightning. I got to look at it on the biblical calendar. And so what I did, I converted it to where that falls on the biblical calendar, and I found out they fell on the first day of Passover, and then the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles in 2014, and then in 2015, it was the same thing. It fell on the first day of Passover and the first day of Tabernacles in 2015. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is incredible to have the 4 blood moons falling back to back, which is rare, and even rarer yet on the feast days.
That's pretty wild. Would you agree that's pretty wild? So here he takes off our calendar, like September 19th and October 20th or whatever. He puts the biblical calendar under there, and all of a sudden, here's this pattern that on the first day of Passover, a red moon, which is the first feast, and the 7th feast is Tabernacles, and it has a red moon. It's almost like God put a red dot at the beginning of the year and a red dot at the end of the year for 2014. Then 2015, he put another red dot on Passover and another red dot on Tabernacles. So God was bracketing those 2 years, right?
Exactly.
So where did it lead from there?
Well, okay, so now I thought, okay, well, how often does it happen on the feast days? Well, so I went to last century, and the last time it occurred was, look at the slide here, it was in 1967 when Israel captured Jerusalem in 1968. They not only were tetrads, they fell on Passover and Sukkot, Passover and Sukkot. So I thought, this is crazy. When does the next time it appear? Well, it happened also last century. Guess what? Right after they became a nation in 48. They happened in 1949 and 1950. And so here's like, oh my goodness, this is tied to Israel, and these are the signs in the heavens on the feast days, so God is sending us signals.
Okay. For those who, this is kind of new, why people are going ooh or ah over 1967. In 1967, there was a 6-day war, and it's called the 6-day war. It didn't last very long, but it made dramatic changes. And that's when Israel and her neighbors went to war, and the Golan Heights and the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, everything everybody's fighting about today. But more importantly than that, they recaptured Jerusalem and East Jerusalem and where the Temple Mount is. And so that's why the world has been going crazy ever since then. But what's significant is that happened, and we're still feeling the effects of it today. And what's fascinating is immediately after that dramatic event, regardless of how you feel about it, for the next 2 years on Passover and Tabernacles, God put 4 red dots, 4 blood moons. And if you look at Genesis, that he gave the sun and the moon for signals
On his feast.
on the feast days, and it follows a dramatic event, woo, that's powerful. So that's the last time there were 4 blood moons. Something major happened. There was a major war and a major shift geopolitically in Israel in 1967-68. Then he went back again. Well, when did this happen again? And it was after 1948. Well, that's after World War II. It's after the Holocaust. It's right after Israel became a nation for the first time in 2,000 years in 1948. Immediately after 1948, there's Passover, a blood moon, Tabernacles, a blood moon. In the next year, 49, and then 1950, again, there was a blood moon on Passover, a blood moon on Tabernacles, 4 in a row. Do you see a pattern here? Every time there's 4 blood moons, something major happened, or a war, or something in Israel. And so now he looks forward. It's going to happen in 2014 and 15. What does that mean?
Hold on to your shorts.
Well, I mean, honestly, honestly, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, and neither Mark or myself are predicting what's going to happen. But here's what we are saying. There's a hello patterns. We see some patterns here. And you remember when you would look in, if you've ever had those books, like if you go on a trip and see ancient ruins, like from the Roman days, it's all broken down stones, and then they have a transparency, and you lay the transparency, wow, with all the paintings and the frescoes, and it was so beautiful. Wow, this is what it looked like. Well, that's kind of what Mark is saying, and what we're seeing is that we're looking at the past at these very strong patterns. We're lifting the transparency and moving it forward, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But we would say this, there's a real strong pattern that we ought to be having our eyes open to and being spiritually alert to, and our eyes looking up to heaven.
Sure.
And seeking the Lord with everything. This is not a time to be messing around.
Right.
It's a time to be in love with the Lord Jesus Christ, being that there's 10 virgins, 5 are wise, 5 are foolish. 5 are getting ready for the wedding, and 5 are sleeping and goofing off and miss it, Jesus said.